Most of you guys on your sales calls are order takers. In this video, I'm going to show you the difference between an order taker and a professional, competent guide, which is what we strive to be in our sales conversations at Digital BGA. Okay. I just listened to a bunch of calls from some really successful agents, really, and I was expecting to get some nuggets here and there. And all I could leave with was the sense that, man, these are order taking calls. And even though they're successful, they're doing it through their activity, like just making more dials and having more talk time than people. They could be way more successful if they became that professional, competent guide. And I hope this could be a wake up call for some of you, because many of you don't think you're an order taker, but you actually are. And so I'm going to explain some of the stuff I heard on these calls here. But underlying like all of it, and something I want you guys to understand before I get to the nitty gritty details of what an order taker is versus that professional competent guide, is you have to understand that life insurance is an intangible sale that's connected to emotion. So let me explain that for a second. Most of the products are tangible. They receive it. Yeah, sure, they receive a life insurance policy, but they don't experience the benefits of it, right? They don't get to use it. And so they're used to like seeing something. And so you don't need as much emotion to buy a lot of that stuff. Okay. For life insurance, where they're not going to experience the benefit, they're just going to experience the peace of mind knowing that they helped the beneficiary, the centerpiece of the whole conversation. That needs to be an emotional tie. Emotionally tie the beneficiary, that loved one who they're trying to protect, to the sales process, right? That's what we're trying to do here. And order takers are not doing that, okay? You have to, in life insurance, you have to connect the emotion in order to be successful here. You will not be successful being an order taker unless you are just a grinder, right? Because yes, you're going to have leads that will buy just with order takers. Absolutely, the laydowns, and you can experience some success doing that. But if you want to experience incredible success in any sort of life insurance, telesales, final expense, term life insurance, IULs, whatever it is, you have to be that professional, competent guy. Okay. So here's some things that I heard on these calls, and to put things in perspective, and maybe you can relate to some of these things. All right. Where do I start here? So, some of them might say, oh yeah, here's one of them. So in all of them, I think I heard, so how much coverage are you looking for? Or some sort of variation of that. What coverage amount do you want? How much coverage are you looking for? That in itself right there is an order taker question. And sure, you can ask that question not as an order taker, but you have to follow it up and with probing questions, right? A lot of people ask, oh, how did you come up with that number? What a professional, competent guide would do was do a discovery, understand their situation, and make a recommendation here. Okay, to get all of that accomplished, it's going to be around $10,000 of coverage. Does that sound about right? Is that what you're looking for? Okay, get that agreement so you're on the same page. Okay, so you're going to give them a few options in the rate presentation, but you got that agreement. This is what they're looking for, and it's not just some number pulled out of the air when you get to the rate presentation. There's a connection to that. It's going to cover what they wanted it to cover, and they agreed on it because you had that discussion. That's what a professional, competent guide would do. But a lot of the calls I just listened to were like, okay, how much coverage were you looking for? I don't know. I'm, around 10,000 or 5,000 or whatever they said. And they move on to the next question. Guys, that's an order taker. It's an order taker mentality. Okay. These uninspired mechanical questions are, these yes, no questions. It's very order taker. All right. You need to have them understand why it all matters. You do that in the discovery. You do that with probing questions, going deeper. You can ask these yes or no questions as long as you go a few levels deep, right? Ask some probing questions to really understand what's going on there. And that's how you get them on the same page as you. And that's what nobody else is doing. Okay. You have to remember here, okay, they may have spoken to the life insurance people in the past. And if they didn't take action, it's because they spoke with order takers. Okay. They need to connect with somebody here. They need to build that emotional bridge to the life insurance policy in order to buy it. You need to build that bridge for them. You need to make that connection with them. They need to feel that. You can't just mechanically go through the script and ask the questions, right? That is, and most sales that they have experienced over the phone, it's very order taker. If they call somewhere or they buy something online or over the phone, I should say, it's mostly order takers asking questions and completing transactions. You cannot do this in life insurance telesales. It's why we're paid so much to do this. To get 100% plus commissions, that's unheard of. It's because we are the backbone of life insurance. We're the ones that need to sell this intangible product here. Order takers are not going to do that. Okay. So, you don't want to have these kind of uninspired mechanical questions and just go through a script without learning more about the person. Okay. These open-ended questions, they reveal needs. You have to keep revealing, peeling back the onion, understanding what's behind all of this. Not, on the other end of the phone, they're just thinking they're interested in a life insurance policy. They know they need to do it, but there's no emotion connected to it. You need to reveal that emotion by asking these questions and probing and, having these conversations centered around these open-ended questions. That's what a professional, competent guide does. You're guiding them based on what they're telling you. Okay. That's the mindset you need to have here. When I got to the rate presentation, I heard a few calls that, gave the options, ABC close, right? Gave the 3 options. Great. But then when they said, oh yeah, that's too expensive, then they just started going, okay, well then let's look at some smaller amounts. They just immediately went to there. Okay. That is an order taker mindset. A lot of you are guilty of this and you know it. You get somebody, oh, it's too expensive, I'm not interested. Then you downsell, right? But during that rate presentation, you still need to make that emotional connection there. You need to build that genuine relationship with them, that you care, and talk about that centerpiece again, that beneficiary. Okay, it's too expensive. Now you need to establish that something is better than nothing with them. Okay, and have a conversation that, hey, as long as you did everything that you could to protect them, your family will feel that and appreciate that. Okay. You may need $10,000 of coverage. I know, the $5,000, that may be less than what they were looking for, but the fact that you did everything that you could to protect them with the means that you have means everything. That's the last memory you're going to leave them with. Okay. So that $5,000 of coverage is X amount of dollars. And, just say, this is a very noble thing. I know your family would appreciate that, this final gesture. Make it about them. If you're just rattling off rates, you're an order taker. You need to bring back what you talked about in the discovery. You need to reassure them that something is better than nothing here before you downsell. You need to commend them on, and get them to agree that and make them understand that they're doing everything that they can. Yeah, they can't get as much as they want, but it's very admirable to know that you did everything you could to take care of them, even if it wasn't what you really wanted. Okay, that's based in an emotion, and that's how you downsell, right? At the end. And so, but the order taker mentality is just give rates. The order taker mentality is during discovery, just ask some of these questions, get the information, keep going, and not asking these open-ended questions that reveal more needs and more emotion. Okay. And life insurance, guys, again, it's an emotional sale. It's an intangible product that they're not going to experience. It's not like it's a health or Medicare product where they're going to experience the benefits of it. Okay. This is life insurance. They're not going to experience any of the benefits of this policy, just the peace of mind that they feel, right? So it needs to be an emotional sale. If you're out there order taking and just this mechanical process, you're not doing as best as you can for yourself or for that family, okay? I encourage everyone to be that professional, competent guide on their calls and self-reflect here. Do you have this order taker mentality? You may think you're this professional, competent guide, but how are you actually reflecting that on your sales calls? All right. Really, really think about that and have that vision. One, the beneficiary is the centerpiece of the call. And two, that you're that professional, right? You have all the knowledge and the skills, competent, right? You know, you like I said, you have all the skills, guide, right? And so they're telling you everything about the guide is taking in all the information, pulling that information out. You know, they're talking about things they never discussed with people before. You're pulling that out of them, you're making that connection, and then you're guiding them to the process. And when it comes to the rate presentation and you're just rattling off rates because, you know, you can't find that fit, you have to connect it again emotionally. All right. Really self-reflect here if you're an order taker or that professional, competent guide.